I've not always been a teacher or trainer in the applied psychologies. I've not always been an NLP instructor. Going back around about 25 years ago, I was actually a soldier in the British Army Royal Engineers. Now, the Royal Engineers is part of the British Army that deals primarily in the artisan trades. I qualified around about the age of 19 years old as a bricklayer, concreter and stonemason. Now, after around about 3 years of training, I had pretty much arrived at the conclusion that this just was something that I should never do, right? And whilst I understood all of the concepts, all of the principles, I was actually a better bricklayer on paper than what I was in actuality and practicality. I couldn't lay bricks to save myself. But I did learn a few interesting principles along the way, and one of them I would like to share with you right now, if that's okay. It's the principle of foundations. Have you ever woken up one day to just get clear that you actually want to build something with your life? You would like to build better relationships, perhaps a more robust career. You would like to build up your personal finances. You would like to build a social movement or something, maybe even a legacy that can be left behind. Well, what I understand about building is that we can only, as human beings, build up to the degree that our foundations can sustain us. All right, so if I was to put this another way, it's going to be the depth and the strength of our foundations that allows us to build in life, period. So let me introduce you now to the 4 pillars of neuro-linguistic programming. And just building upon this idea of foundations, let's look at what the foundations of NLP actually are before we explore the pillars. Because the pillars only stand if the foundations will sustain. So in order for us to be effective NLP practitioners, and what I'm kind of doing here is sharing with you a partial vision, all right, if that's okay. Neurological processes. Now, our neurological processes stem and are rooted in cognitive psychology, all right? It's how we interpret life, how we interpret our experience, what happens in between our experiences and us feeling something, because we're all interacting in life every single day. We're out there in the world, having events, having experiences, interpreting these experiences and these events in a certain way, and then feeling something or doing something because of all this. All right, so in order to become more grounded and established within ourselves, we need to understand our cognitive neurological processes. So this is part of the cocktail mixture that goes into the foundations of neuro-linguistic programming. Language. Sometimes it's not what we say that makes the greatest impact in life, but it's how we say what we say. You could go to a friend or a colleague or a family member or a business partner or someone whom you're leading and tell them the truth. But if you do not communicate the truth in a compassionate way which is received by the person whom you're communicating with, then what you say kind of becomes completely irrelevant because it can be misconstrued, misinterpreted. The listener of your message may end up taking offense unnecessarily because we simply didn't understand the difference between sharing a truth compassionately and sharing a truth uncompassionately, if that makes sense. So our experience, our understanding of our experience is what allows us to empathically relate to other people, sometimes also to ourselves. When we embrace our experiences, and incidentally, there's 2 ways that we can respond to our experiences in life. Because we all have a past, we all have a backstory, we all have a history. Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, and today is a gift. It's kind of like the present. We can do with it as we will. Many people look to the past, look to their history, at all the things that they've experienced, the things that have happened to them, kind of like a burden. And then they walk around life with this burden, carrying this burden upon their shoulders, and it's the burden of their past. It's the burden of their woes, the burden of their hurts, their experiences, their ups and their downs, and all this kind of thing. And some people, you interact with them, and they seem so heavy. They seem burdened. Kind of like yesteryear is weighing down on them, and they end up traumatized and with all sorts of conditions. They would claim to be unable to move forward into their future because of all of the things that have happened in their past. Can you relate to this in any way? Most people will be able to. But yet there's an alternative approach, where some people allow their past experiences to weigh down on them and crush them. Other people use their experiences not as a burden, but as a foundation upon which they stand, upon which gives them substance and energy and passion to move forward into their futures, to sometimes even go on to become the kinds of people for other people that they never had for themselves. When we become able to communicate our experience in an objective way, this is when we become more valuable to our fellow men and our fellow women or human beings. All right? And we communicate our experience through language. Sometimes some people are going to need us to communicate our experience in a really neurological way, right? Some people are more rationally minded, some people are more emotionally minded. So it's our responsibility as NLP practitioners to develop ourselves in both areas, to become as effective as what we can be in communicating our experience to as many people as physically possible, for it's thus that allows us to leave a meaningful legacy behind. NLP is all about personal development. Personal development is all about progressing. It's about advancing. You know, I've had conversations with many people over the years, and they ask me about the magic of NLP. They say, Kane, but NLP's magic, isn't it? It's kind of like wizardry, because there have been books written over the years, The Magic of NLP, where you'll have various NLP practitioners clicking their fingers and doing all sorts of magical, mystical techniques with their hands and their witch and wizard fingers, and people were just being transformed and healed, kind of like NLP is some sort of miraculous expression of mysticism. No, it's not. It's just personal growth orientated. The reason why some elements of NLP are misinterpreted and misunderstood by many people is because some people cannot relate to the mindsets and the philosophies that other people reach in life. So personal development is about us growing, advancing, progressing, making changes, improving ourselves, asking ourselves the question every single day: who am I prepared to become? In what ways do I need to grow? In what ways could I become a more valuable, more balanced, more grounded and rounded human being? How could I become better for others? Because we can live our lives wanting to feel better about ourselves, or we can live our lives wanting to become better so we can become more valuable for others. It's just an attitude that we'll take towards life, and we will each choose which one we subscribe to. Moving from concrete authority, where we're reliant on other people to take responsibility for us, to ourselves standing on our own 2 feet as grounded human beings, taking full responsibility for ourselves. Unless we're taking full responsibility for ourselves, then it's going to be very, very difficult for anyone to congruently take responsibility for anyone else through their process of personal development, growth and improvement. You with me? So coaching plays a massive role in this. Now, again, I obviously don't know where you're at in life, all right? So for this stage of your experience, if you will let me, I can be your coach. Granted, it's not going to be a two-way dialogue interaction that we have all of the time, but what you can do is you can draw upon my insights, the lessons that I've learned, as I do my best to, as accurately as possible, share with you my experiences, my interpretation of these experiences, communicate them to you through my imperfect use of language to help you make some neurological connections and some shifts in your thinking to get those aha moments. Because if you follow this guidance, and if you are willing to build these components into the foundations of your own life, then you naturally are going to be better versed to pursue and achieve whatever goals you have for a more vibrant, more fulfilling, and a more rewarding future. Now, it might sound like I'm doing and delivering some sort of motivational seminar here, but that's not the intention, right? What is the intention is to help you grasp a vision and a reason for driving your own personal growth. And the 4 pillars of NLP can actually help you through this process. through developing communication skills. Communication goes two ways, all right? There is what we say, there's how we say what we say, and there's how well we listen. Sometimes we deem ourselves ineffective through our communications by not listening to ourselves and listening to how we're saying what we're saying, or what we're saying, and improving what we're saying so that what we're saying can be better received by other people. Sometimes we won't hear what other people share with us through coaching or teaching or sharing of experience because we're inflexible in our thinking and unwilling to consider any perspective that simply differs from our own. So communication skills are key. Neuro-linguistic programming, linguistic being 1/3 of pretty much everything NLP here. What we say and how well we say determines how well we are received by other people, and the quality of our communications determines the caliber of our relationships. The caliber of our relationships determines the overall quality of our life. Life is a network. Sensory awareness. Sensory awareness is the second pillar of NLP, and this is actually about us becoming aware of ourselves. Self-awareness precedes all personal growth. We cannot grow or improve or develop ourselves in an area that we are not aware that we need to grow or improve or develop ourselves in. Make sense? It's kind of as simple as that. Outcome-led thinking. Now, I have attended and I've partook in many NLP practitioner and master practitioner trainings over the years, and what I can be as bold as saying right now is no two have ever been alike. Some have left feeling particularly empowered, others have left feeling absolutely bored, completely disempowered. Why? Because there's a difference between applying and embracing some of these ideas for the purposes of helping people feel better, and then applying these ideas, embracing them for the purposes of us playing a part in enabling people to grow and mature and become better. Outcome-led thinking determines this. All right? What we focus on, our vision in life, determines what we will actually work towards. Some people have a small vision in their life and for their futures, so work towards small things. Their goals are small, live their lives relatively uninspired. Other people have a vision for who they can go on to become, the difference they can go on to make, the impact they want to make in the world, what they want to accomplish personally, professionally, financially, through their works, through their creative efforts, and then go on to create fantastic things. So outcome-led thinking enables this. All right? It's very, very difficult. In fact, I would go as far as saying it is impossible to guide or coach or lead anyone in life who does not have a vision for their future that is greater than the way in which they're living today. All right? It's the extent of our vision in life that determines and drives us and compels us to grow and improve and take the action steps required to get there. So let our outcomes always be framed in the positive. A good example of this, have you ever heard of the term New Year's resolutions? Well, here in Scotland, this happens pretty much every Hogmanay. Hogmanay is the 31st of December, it's the last day in the year, where people set goals. All right, goals about how they want to improve, things they want to accomplish the next year. So some people set goals such as, I want to lose weight, I want to stop eating chocolate, I'm going to go to the gym more, I'm going to get a new job. And it's important that we understand the difference between positive outcomes and negative outcomes. Because if a person says something like, I'm going to the gym because I want to lose weight, then what this person is talking about is what they are going to have to give up, what they're going to have to cut out of their life. And unless we are working towards something that's more positively framed, i.e. something that we want to build into our lives, many people will find it extremely difficult to find the motivation to see their goals through to fruition, completion. You with me? So outcome-led thinking is about us determining the difference between the things that we don't want in our lives and the things that we do want in our lives. Because many people all around the world will spend thousands and thousands of pounds on motivational books and motivational seminars, whereas all that is really required is just this one notion. When we focus on what we want rather than on what we don't want, we automatically become motivated. And that's it. Many people attend motivational events, jump around by the guru, being led by the guru on the stage, and mistake motivation for a feeling of excitement. Feeling excited is very different from being genuinely motivated. We can only be genuinely motivated in pursuit of outcomes that we genuinely want more of in our life, not focusing on the things that we don't. You with me? Does this make sense? Fantastic. And behavioural flexibility. Now, our behavioural flexibility will be determined solely by how flexible we are in our thinking. If we are rigid and concrete in our thinking, waiting for someone to come into our lives and make all of our outcomes come to pass, then we're forever going to be disempowered. We're forever standing at risk of just having no more tomorrow than what we have today, no more today than what we had yesterday. Behavioural flexibility kind of looks like this. I'm taking one approach to this goal, but after a certain time, if I can gauge and see that this approach isn't working, rather than just being like a bull in a china shop and trying to ram my way through this brick wall, I'm going to stop, be a little bit reflective, and just consider whether there's a better way. Is there a strategy that I've not considered? Who else out there in the world has already achieved this outcome that I want? Who could I learn from? Who could I go and observe? Who could I go and model? Who could I go and study? How could I grow in information and skills and ideas that might help me get closer to this outcome that I want?